Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful friends. Happy awesome Saturday to you. This is the Awesome Saturday service. It is time to get some ass today. It is the Sabbath. Good morning, Shauna. Wonderful to see you here this morning. Thanks so much for being here. Indeed, it is the Sabbath. This is the day when we put aside our work and we really focus on being. We focus on being human beings and not human doings. And so I'm really excited to hang out with you guys today. Thank you so much for being here. Anyways, it being Awesome Saturday, we have another Awesome Saturday message for you. And what we're talking about today is the power of attention. What is it that we pay attention to? Because whatever we pay attention to grows, it expands. And so the idea here is that our attention is the thing which defines our perception. It's like a paintbrush with which we color our reality. And so the difference between somebody who has a reality that is full of doom and gloom and somebody who has a reality that is full of rainbows is really more about what we pay attention to than what our physical circumstances are. And so I have to ask you, like, what have you been looking at this week? And I don't just mean looking at with your eyes. I mean, what have you been considering with your mind? Where has your heart been? Where have your thoughts been? Because attention is like water to a plant. And anything that we feed with attention, and that means that means things that we do want and also things that we don't want. But whether it's worry or peace or anger or it's joy, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But anything that we feed with attention, it's just like watering a plant and it grows. And so, whatever it is that we choose to think about is something that's going to grow in our lives. And so it's really important for us to understand that we have this tremendous creative power. And the way that we wield that creative power is by paying attention to things. And indeed, we call it, at least in the English language, we call it paying attention. Like there's a debt there. Like there is something that we are owed, or that we owe the world around us, and so we pay that thing. And so I've noticed that at least in my life, anything that I anything that I try not to think about is something that I tend to think about. So if I try not to think about wanting a certain type of snack that isn't very good for me, and then all of a sudden that becomes something that I can't get out of my mind. Or if you've ever had like a song stuck in your head and you didn't want it to be stuck in your head, and yet it just kept on popping up and popping up and popping up, and even though would be the very last thing that we wanted to have in our heads, whatever we resist persists. And so attention itself has an immense creative force. I mean, attention isn't like a passive thing. Attention is a creative force. And so whatever we dwell on becomes our experience. And a lot of times we start to conflate our experience with our identity. We don't say, I'm paying attention to this thing that sucks. We say, I suck. We don't say, I'm paying attention to this thing which is making me feel good. We say, I feel good, or I am feeling good. And so whatever it is that we focus on becomes our experience. And so therefore attention itself has a tremendous creative power. If we focus on the things that we don't want, or let's say that we are trying to or working at doing something new that we've never done before, and we can either choose to pay attention to the idea that it's going to fail because of all manner of things. We could either think up all the reasons it's going to fail, or we could think up all the reasons it's going to succeed. And if we think up all the reasons it's going to fail, then we are going to be focused on that. And then, of course, that failure becomes inevitable. It's a foregone conclusion. We decided it before we even began. If we decide in advance about all the reasons that something is going to succeed, then that success becomes inevitable because we decided that we were going to succeed even before we began. Now, if there's a very famous proverb, 23:7, that says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." There's in fact a whole book called As a Man Thinketh that is just all about how what we think about is actually a creative force, and whatever we think about expands and grows. And so when we focus on lack, we feel poor even when we have enough. And when we focus on offense, it makes us bitter even when no new harm is done. And I know because I felt both poor and offended many times in my life. And when I felt poor and when I felt like everybody around me was somehow keeping me down, then I couldn't focus on the fact that I had tremendous abundance. And when I focused on how much the people around me had offended me, I couldn't I couldn't focus on love because I was too busy focusing on being offended. But on the other hand, if I were to focus on gratitude, which is definitely something that I focus on more nowadays, but when I focus on gratitude, it expands my sense of abundance. When I focus on compassion, it expands my sense of connection to other people. When I focus on faith instead of fear, which both ask us to believe in something that hasn't happened yet, that faith brings me peace before anything at all changes. What changes is me. What changes is the peace that is inside of me. And so therefore I encourage you to focus on these things that actually bring us a really good emotional and mental and spiritual state. Because as we do this, it permits us to live life in a much bigger and bolder and braver way. Because instead of focusing on the things that we don't want and don't like and don't desire, we get to use that incredible creative power of attention to focus on what we do. Now, one of the things that I hear a lot of people say whenever I talk about this stuff is, well, I'm trying to focus on the good things. I still feel overwhelmed. I still feel stuck. Why look at my life situation and tell me that you wouldn't feel the same way that I feel right now? And first of all, I have a tremendous issue with the word try. I don't like the word try. I try not to use the word try, and I don't always succeed at it, like just there. But the fact is that the word try implies failure. When we say I tried, what we really mean is that I failed. I didn't meet my mark. I missed the target. And now I am attempting to justify my missing the target by being like, well, I did my best. I missed the target, but I did my best. And there's nothing wrong with doing our best. Of course, we are kind of expected to do that. Uh, However, when we use the word try, there's this like implication that we already expect that we aren't going to do it. We aren't going to accomplish it. And stage hypnotists actually use this trick all the time. Like there is a little mental shortcut in our brain that says, as soon as we believe that we're trying to do something, we just don't put any effort whatsoever into it. And so when a stage hypnotist wants somebody to fail at something, they just tell them to try. Hey, try to remember your name. Hey, try to remember what your middle name is right now. What's your middle name? You can't remember it. Try harder. Now, really focus on what your middle name is, and try so hard to remember your middle name. And then everybody's laughing because somebody on stage can't remember their own middle name. Well, of course they can't remember their middle name. The stage hypnotist has short-circuited their brain to instantly stop thinking about what their middle name is simply by using the word try. It's a very, very powerful technique that is regularly used in stage hypnosis. And the next time that you happen to be in the presence of a stage hypnotist, pay attention to it, because every time they don't want you to do something, or they don't want their audience participant to accomplish something, they just use the word try. Yeah. Try to make it happen. And so, when we think about this, and when we say that we're trying to do something, then we are automatically setting ourselves up for failure. And when we feel like we are overwhelmed or stuck, those are okay feelings to feel. We simply acknowledge that we feel overwhelmed or stuck, and we say, even though I feel overwhelmed or stuck, I am still focusing and choosing to focus on the things that are better, which are coming. And I am choosing to focus on the things which are better, which are already here. I might be overwhelmed and stuck in one area of my life. I am not overwhelmed and stuck in all areas of my life. And when somebody says that they are already working at this, my response to that is that there's a difference between a glance and a gaze. And transformation comes from sustained focus. It doesn't come from having a fleeting thought of, oh, I'm going to be better at this, that, or the other thing. It comes from sustained focus on being better at this, that, or the other thing. So I'm currently in a, I'm currently in a room right now that's kind of warm, and it's warm because the sunlight is coming through the windows, and the windows are closed, and it's a little bit of a greenhouse, and it's warm in here right now. But that same exact light, which can warm the room gently, if it's focused through a magnifying glass, it could start a fire. And so focus is something that is tremendously powerful. That same light, which can provide gentle lighting for me at nighttime when I'm reading my book, can also be focused into a laser and cut through metal. So, as we are choosing what we focus on, understand that the sustained focus and more importantly, a determination about exactly what we're focusing on has tremendous, tremendous power. And also, let's recognize that shifting our attention isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily discipline. We have to go back at it and back at it and back at it. And I'm sure that you also have experienced the idea that when we change our focus, we change our attention, we decide to shift to something different, and then we drift back to what we thought beforehand. We drift back to the way that we used to be. Maybe we don't drift all the way back, but we drift 90% of the way back. We take 5 steps forward and 4 steps back. And so therefore, we have to just be consistently reevaluating. Well, what am I paying attention to? What am I focusing on? It is indeed a daily discipline, and because it's a daily discipline, and because it's not just something that a switch flips one day, then because of that, that is one of the main reasons that people do not succeed at this. And so there's a spiritual practice, and I like to call it sacred noticing. And we reclaim our power by becoming aware of what we are feeding with our focus. So what are you unintentionally watering right now? Is it fear? Is it gossip? Is it doubt? Is it resentment? What don't you want to water that you are? I look at my own life and I think to myself, okay, well, if I didn't have fear in my life, I would do things differently. If I didn't have doubt in my life, I would do things differently. So where am I watering those thoughts that are not valuable to me? And then on the flip side, like, what do I want to water? If I have a garden, I don't want to water the weeds. I want to water the flowers. I want to water the food. I want to water the plants that will eventually sustain my life. Well, in my mind, I also want to water the ideas that sustain my life. Ideas like peace, ideas like trust, ideas like vision, creativity. These are things that when I have more of them in my life gets better. And so it's important for us to just create an attention check-in and ask ourselves, what is our mind lingering on? And does the focus align with what I believe to be true? And if it does, great, full speed ahead. And if it doesn't, and I know in my own mind, oftentimes it doesn't, but if it doesn't, I have to ask myself the question, what would happen if I turned my attention elsewhere? And it doesn't have to be a quick jerking of my head side to side. It can be gentle. It could just be a gentle shifting of my gaze. But what if instead of looking at that thing that I don't want to look at, I looked a little bit to the left of that thing that I don't want to look at? I don't have to do a complete 180 and completely lose my bearings, but I can just sort of like shift my gaze a little bit. And that allows me to ask another very powerful question, which is, what would it take? What would it take in order for the change to occur? The fact is that focus is faith in action. I said beforehand that fear and faith both ask us to believe in something that hasn't happened yet. Well, attention itself is a form of worship. So whatever it is that we give our focus to, we elevate that thing. So we end up worshiping that thing. We end up worshiping that situation. We end up worshiping the whatever it is that we are focusing on. And so our attention is an offering. And so we have to set our mind on the things above and not on earthly things. We have to set our mind on spiritual matters. because as we do that, all of the matters of our day-to-day life will take care of themselves, and they do. So this week, let's practice intentional focus. We don't want to fight distractions. We don't want to immediately attempt to rewire how all of our dopamine triggers work. We just need to refocus gently, again and again and again, and what we look at will grow. So let's make that thing something beautiful. Let's make sure that we are looking at the things that are the really the best for us, and let's make sure that as we have our spiritual focus, that spiritual focus is something that is really where we would like it to be. So let's not water the weeds in our lives and in our minds. Let's water the flowers in our lives and in our minds, and let's water the wonder and the faith that everything is working out for us and that everything is working out for us abundantly. I'll talk to you guys on Monday at 9 a.m. I want to say thank you so much for coming over to the awesome Saturday service. It's always a pleasure to do these. I hope that it gives you a bit more insight as to just what the wake up call is all about. And yeah, I will talk to you guys on Monday at 9 a.m. Until then, thanks so much for coming by, Shauna, and commenting. I see a couple other people are watching but haven't left a comment yet. But just want to say I love you. I appreciate you. Happy awesome Saturday. Let's spend our awesome Saturday with awesome people, doing awesome things in awesome places, eating awesome food, and just in general having an awesome life. I'll talk to y'all on Monday at 9 a.m. But until then, I love you. I appreciate you. This is your daily reminder that you are awesome. So let us recognize our inherent value and worth. You are inherently valuable and worthy simply because you walk on this earth, and you have the ability to create positive change. I will talk to everybody tomorrow. I'm sorry, not tomorrow, but on Monday at 9 a.m. And until then, happy awesome Saturday. Get some ass. Aloha from paradise.